I'd like to welcome you to our new series on calligraphy. Some of you may be familiar with calligraphy. It's the art of elegant penmanship. For those of you who aren't, don't despair. Even if your handwriting is poor or you've had no artistic training or ability whatsoever, you can learn. We're going to have a great time in this series, and I'd like to show you some things that you'll be able to do once you learn how our technique works. For example, how would you like to be able to do labels for your own cooking, if you do cooking or canning? How about doing work on leather? You can actually work on leather as well as many other surfaces. Certificates. There will be many opportunities in your business or in your social clubs or whatever to do certificates. We're going to do some of this work through the series. Posters. How many times have you had a chance or a need for a poster? And finally, we'll show you ways that you can do poetry. We'll show you ways that you can finish laying out pieces, doing different styles, and end up with a piece that would be great to hang on your own wall or give as a gift. Calligraphy is an acquired skill. It's fun. It's something that anyone can do. I'm self-taught, never have had a lesson at any time. I was introduced to it in college a number of years ago, and I was fascinated by the fact that it was something I could do rapidly with just a very inexpensive pen, and you may already have a pen. If you do, pick it up and work along with us. Let me illustrate just some of the various styles and things that we'll be doing through the series. For example, we're going to work with Old English. I'm doing this with a marker pen. This is a pen, if you already are familiar with them, grab one and work along with me. You may not have ever seen any of the rules or know anything about actually forming calligraphy. So if you don't, work along with me. If you've had some experience with calligraphy, you might also want to look in and see how that we're doing things a bit differently than maybe you've done them in the past. We're going to work with a cursive alphabet. This is a very free-flowing, smooth style that is really our training ground. This is what I'll be showing you how to develop. Each letter has its own unique characters, their own unique strokes that make up the characters. It's easy. There are a few rules to remember. I know your imagination will run wild. Just think about ways that you may never have dreamed about using handwriting because maybe your handwriting isn't good. Well, believe me, mine isn't either. But this is a technique. It's an acquired skill using just some basic tools and some basic knowledge that you can master, and it doesn't take long to do. This is yet another style. It's called an uncial style. And it has its own look and its own character. It's used in various applications, and you'll find ways to apply this alphabet. It's a little more formal than the cursive and maybe a little bit less formal than the Old English. Now, these have been markers that I'm using right now. Let me show you another pen that's exciting and a lot of fun to work with. It's a fountain pen. Many of you have probably used the old style fountain pen that you fill up, you dip into the inkwell. Well, this works the same way. It's filled the same way, except it has a special marker or a special point, like the marker, for a chisel edge character. It writes a little bit smaller, so let me show you how it works. Now again, it's the same technique, the same things apply, except with this pen, you fill it and you can begin lettering, and you don't have to stop and go back and refill. It gives you extremely sharp, fine lines, and it's very versatile. So we're going to be doing some letterheads toward the end of the series, and we'll be showing you a lot of different applications for your lettering as you go along. Now this again is a reservoir pen. It's just a fountain pen with a special calligraphy point. Another pen. This is one of my favorites. I have a great occasion, a great number of times, to do posters. I'm asked to do signs or posters for church or even shows and things that I do where I want some publicity in a booth. I'll do a big poster. This is called a steel brush, and it's great. You can use it for any of these styles, and it makes a very, very wide letter. I'll do this in a little bit in Old English, and you can see what versatility it offers. Now you have to make sure you load the pen enough with enough ink, because you're putting down a real wide stroke, and sometimes you have to go back. You may only be able to make 1 or 2 letters at a time with a wide pen like this, but it's great to work with. It's just more fun because you can see those thicks and thins coming about, and it's very, very graphic. See how you can block those letters off? I'm just going to give you a little collage, just a little sampler here of various styles, and hope to whet your appetite a little bit and make you want to go out and get some of these pens and try it. I encourage you again to give yourself some self-confidence right in the beginning, and don't let yourself be talked out of it by saying, oh, I don't have any talent whatsoever. Well, it doesn't take any talent. This is an acquired skill. It's something that you can learn. It is not difficult at all. INVIT. Have to stop and think about what you're doing. There are several things to remember as you go along. Ways of holding the pen to achieve different effects and to make sure that everything is working properly. So you have to concentrate on what you're doing. Now this is still a cursive style that I'm demonstrating right here. But it's vertical. Instead of leaning, it's vertical. See how exciting you can make it when you add colors, different styles, and different pen sizes. You can really end up with some dramatic posters and wedding invitations or whatever you might want to do. There are just countless ways of putting all these elements together. For example, I'm using here probably 5 or 6 different colors, and you'll see that with the colors and the different styles mixed together, you can really achieve some special effects. This is sort of a silver or a gray looking marker. And all of them work the same. You have to have a chisel edge pen to do calligraphy. You can't do it with a ballpoint. You can't do it with any other regular writing instrument. It has to be a chisel tip pen of some sort. And they come in, well, the ones that I'm using right here come in a number of different sizes, 5 or 6 different sizes, and about, I guess 7 or 8 different colors. Certificates. I showed you an example of a certificate at the beginning. I'll bet you for your Bible school or whatever, you may have lots and lots of chances to do certificates. Even if they're pre-printed, you may want to just come back and fill them in. Oftentimes, I'm asked to fill in a certificate where the form has been pre-printed, but I'll need to put in a name. Well, you may be able to do that too. Here's a finished sampler, you might call it, of all the styles and things that we'll be doing. Of course, this is in an Old English style. We did the cursive, the uncial. I'll be showing you how to do some monograms in case you want to do your own letterheads and envelopes. We'll do some poetry. I'll show you a split pen. This is great fun. So versatile. So many ways, again, that you can put all these elements together and end up with some really nice finished work. I want to take you back just a moment. I was in college when I was first introduced to calligraphy, and this is the very first piece I ever did. It's pretty rough. The spacing is not very good. As you can see, I didn't plan ahead very well. My name is off center. But it was for an assignment, and I took just an inexpensive dip pen that I bought at the bookstore, came back to the room at the dormitory and began doing these things, and I was so fascinated by what I could do with what at that time was a 15-cent pen. Well, you're going to have to spend a little bit more than that these days to get the dip pens to work for you that would do the same thing. But I was so enchanted by what I could do with that dip pen, and found that really I began honing a skill that has been around forever. Calligraphy has been around since way before movable type was invented. That's the way the monks and the old scribes had to reproduce things. Well, I found that it was fascinating to me, and not many other people were doing it. Well, you know now that a lot of people are doing it. I'm sure you've seen the various supplies in the stores, and you may even have a college or a junior college, community college or something in your neighborhood where they teach calligraphy. Well, it is very popular, and I want you to stay with us, and I'll teach you how to do it. There are 4 rules that I want to share with you that are very important whether you're practicing or working or whatever. The first rule is to keep that pen at a 45-degree angle to the baseline. Well, the baseline would be the bottom of where your letter would sit, just like so. That letter is going to set on a bottom baseline, and in order to make these thick and thin portions here, you have to have your pen at a 45-degree angle. Well, how do you get it? All right, all you do is make an L, and you split that L right down the middle. Just draw a line, doesn't have to be perfect. Split that line right down the middle, and then line up your pen point to where it is, you can make a line parallel to that split line. Every letter begins and ends at a 45-degree angle. You can remember that. That's easy, and that's really what forms the characteristic of the calligraphic style. All right, the second rule, keep your pen on the 3rd joint of your index finger. You see where it is right here? I'm not holding it back like this. I'm holding it right up here. All right? That's so that I can get that pen at a 45-degree angle. If I hold it back here, if I hold it too far back, it'll only make a dot when I go to line up on this split L. So I'm going to raise it on that index finger, make a line, and I'm ready to go. Third rule, little finger. Keep that little finger extended from the very beginning when you start your practice or whatever. Keep it extended. That allows you to make every letter just very slowly and deliberately. It gives you a foundation. All calligraphy is done with your thumb, middle index finger, and middle finger. That's where the motion is. You want to keep your hand on the table. And 4th rule is to make all strokes go down and to the right. Now let me give you a brief explanation here. You can get away with the markers, with the fiber tip markers, by going up. You can get away with it with these pens, and you can go to the left. You can see that it tends to jump a little bit. Calligraphy pens are designed to be pulled down or to the right. They're flexible. They're flexible. And when you try to go against the grain, they're going to tend to jump. Well, you can get away with it with a marker, but let me show you what happens if you use a dip pen or a regular fountain pen. If you try to violate that rule and make these letters in continuous strokes, this is what will happen. You can't push the pen upward. That would cause a disaster on your work or practice or whatever. All strokes come down or to the right because you cannot force the pen upward. Well, again, you may be tempted if you're using markers to go up or to the left, and they'll allow you to. They're a little bit forgiving, but don't do it because it'll get you in trouble when you actually go to use your dip pen or some of the other pens that won't move in that direction. I want to show you a little bit about how this alphabet evolved that I've designed. And this is the foundation. It's the technique by which you can learn calligraphy. It is easy, it's fast, and it's fun. And again, I want to emphasize that you must not worry about whether or not you have any talent, because it doesn't matter. For those of you that are left-handed also, be sure and ask for left-handed pens when you go to the store, because they're designed differently, and you'll need those if you are a southpaw. We can't forget about you folks. All right, when I sat down the first time to really start analyzing what I did to make these letters, at that time I had been doing calligraphy for about 16 years, and it became automatic. Well, I made an A, and I looked at it, and I said, okay, there is the first letter of the alphabet. That's a lowercase a. What am I doing? How am I making that? Because I had been self-taught, really no rules had ever come into effect. It just sort of happened. So I looked at it again, and I said, okay, an A is made up of that stroke right there. So I put that up there, and I said, that will now and forevermore become stroke 1. So then the second part of an A looks like that. So I put that up there, and I said, that is a stroke 2. What I'm doing now is just analyzing each letter. I'm breaking it down and sort of making a recipe. All right, the third part of the A looked like that, so that became stroke 3. So then I knew that the first letter of the alphabet in the cursive style, the one that I use most often, was made up of strokes 1, 2, and 3. All right, the next letter then was a B. So I made that stroke like that, and I said, okay, That looks different, so I'm going to call it a stroke 4. So we'll just label it 4. Then the next part of the B looks like this. So I brought it around and tied it in like that, and I had yet a new stroke. So the A is 1, 2, and 3. The B is a 4 and a 5. So I did a C, A, B, C, and I found that it started off exactly like the A with a stroke 1, so I don't have to add anything. But in order to complete that C, I have to put a little cap on it like that. So I put that up there and I said stroke 6. Well, now, I'll tell you at this point that I didn't go much farther than this. It just took me 14 strokes. 14 different movements did the whole thing, gave me the entire alphabet. So I went on and I did a D, and I found that the D started off with a stroke 1, and then I did a 4, and then I added that one, a stroke 6, and I found that I didn't have to add anything for the D. Well, let's make one more. I made an E, and that took a stroke 1, and then I finished it with a stroke 5. So an E is a 1 and a 5. Well, as I said, I went on, developed the entire alphabet from A to Z, and I found that it only took 14 different strokes. Well, in the process, I did the uppercase too. I worked on the capital letters and found that 11 different strokes. That's all. Just 11 different pieces make up A to Z. You learn these, you can do these. It's as easy as that. All right, I got that behind me, and I said, got to look at the lowercase. But before I did, I went ahead and developed the rest of the alphabet. I'm just going to show you one letter right now. I'm going to show you a G. We're going to keep it simple and just develop one letter. An uppercase G is made up of 3 strokes. It takes a 7 and an 8 and a 4. Now these are all strokes from that little legend that I showed you just a moment ago, and we're going to be getting into this, and I'll show you in much more detail later. So there is a stroke 7, and there is an 8, and there is a 4. Now, I'll bet you, before you started watching, you probably had no idea that you could make that pretty a letter with 3 simple strokes. It's easy. I can't emphasize it enough. You can do it. If you have a calligraphic pen of any sort, you can do this. Well, let me show you the rest of the lowercase letters. I showed you 6, showed you 1 through 6. I went ahead and finished 7 through 14. Did the alphabet and found that I needed these strokes, which ended up looking like that. I learned those. I didn't really worry about the numbers, but I learned that each one of these goes in a particular place, in a particular sequence, and then I had the whole lowercase alphabet. So there's not a great long learning process involved. If you can follow those 14 strokes, if you have a calligraphic pen, you can do it. You really can. Now let me show you 3 other letters. Just going to show you 3 of the lowercase letters to further illustrate how these recipes go together. And that's really what each letter is. It's a recipe. It takes some combination of those 14 strokes put together in the right sequence and in the right place, and you end up with calligraphic letters. All right, let's do an A. An A starts off just like that, like I showed you a moment ago, with a stroke 1, and then a 2, and a 3. Easy as that. 1, 2, and 3. All right, I'm going to move down here and show you an E, just for comparison. An E, well, let's do an A first for comparison down here. An A we made up above like this. 1, 2, and 3. The E starts off exactly the same stroke, 1, but now I'm going to put this little stroke 5 right here. Going to lay that right in there, and I have an E. All right, let's do a G. We'll lay this right over here, and I'll show you how to make a lowercase g. Now, we've already done an uppercase G, but just for comparison, I'm going to show you these 2 letters in both styles. The lowercase g looks like this. And notice again, it starts off with a 1 and a 2, and then the stroke 9 comes down, and I bring an 8 into it, and I have a G. Now, you've already seen the uppercase G. For comparison, still very, very easy. One more letter. I'm going to do an M, and I'll lay this right here. All right, an M is made up of 3 strokes, a 13, a 13, and an 11. So I'm going to put the first 13 right here, and then I'm going to put the other one right here, but I'm going to add this little part. This is a subtle little difference, and you'll learn as we go along how you change some of these strokes just a little bit to make the letters. So those 3 strokes, a 13 and a 13 with an extra motion at the top, and an 11, make an M. How much easier can it be? I don't know of any art or craft or anything that you really can pick up and be involved with as quickly as you can calligraphy. Let me put those together now. We did the word game. I don't know if you followed, but we did a capital G, like so, and then it had a motion like that, and then over, and I'm going to complete that a little bit. Now on the A, we did a stroke 1 and a 2 and a 3, 2 13s, and that one, and then an E. Now I can fancy that up a little bit and put one of those on it. Calligraphy is like a game. It really is. If you remember these strokes, learn how they are and how they go together, you can do it. You really can. Now I want to letter about 3 more words, and I'll talk about a couple of other aspects of it as we go along. Let's change colors just for variety. We'll put a little red on this one. As I mentioned earlier, calligraphy is an acquired skill. You have to have absolutely no talent. I don't draw, paint, sketch. I don't do any of those things. If you were ask me to draw a portrait or do something in the form of artwork, my portrait might look just like this, because that's about as talented as I am from an artistic standpoint. But I can do calligraphy because I learned the strokes. I learned what the elements were that go into making these letters fit together, making the pieces work together. And it's easy. I cannot emphasize that too strongly. Until you try it, until you pick up the pen and actually get your hands working, you won't believe it. You may be looking at this and saying, oh, that guy is crazy. He has to have a lot of artistic ability. That just looks too complicated. I could never do it. Well, not so. Not so. You really can. Learn those rules and regulations and hand positions, and I promise you, in less time than it would take you to do, several other styles of lettering or whatever, or any kind of artwork, you're going to be getting into this in a hurry, and people will take notice very quickly. All right, I'm going to change colors here. Again, just to whet your appetite a little bit and tempt you with what you can do with this fabulous set of characters and strokes to make these letters. I'm going to drop in a little Old English here now. Notice how the Old English has a little bit more of a blocked look to it. The letters are vertical, no more harder to make than these over here. In fact, they're really a little bit easier. It's all easy, believe me. All right, I'm going to do the word easy in an Old English style, and that's just sort of a blocky look that has a little bit of a formal look to it. And I'll put a big S in there, and we'll do this to it, and that, and we'll finish it with a Y. Calligraphy is fun and easy. I can't say it any plainer than that. It really is fun and easy, and I promise you, you can do it. You've got to try it. You just have to try it. Let me show you this split pen. This is something that's relatively new, and it has it just has a little notch right in the end of it. It's a regular calligraphy pen, and again, when you go to buy a pen at the market or at the art store, ask for a calligraphy pen. Don't try to do calligraphy with just anything, because in order to get the thicks and the thins, you're going to have a chisel point. All right, this chisel point has a split, and when I make the same letters and the same strokes, same technique, then look what happens. I get a real beautiful double line, a parallel look to it. And anything you do, any character you make, has an added dimension because of that split point. You want to be sure and pick up a split point. And these are available both in the markers and in the reservoir pens. Now that's the fountain pen like I showed you earlier. Don't forget also the dip pens. They're inexpensive if you want to get into it quickly. Just for under $1, you can get into this and get that dip pen, get you a bottle of ink, which will cost you another couple of dollars, and you'll see that it just doesn't take anything to get started. Let me show you some of the things that we'll be doing as we progress through the show. We're going to be doing certificates. I promised to show you how to lay out a certificate. Here's one that is quite useful. I'm sure you've got somebody you'd like to give that to. We're going to do a card. We're going to do a birthday card. I'll show you how to lay it out. I'll show you how to lay out the inside as well as the outside. We're going to do a party invitation. I'll show you how to, again, to do the Old English, how to get that started, how to lay out the center part. Easy. This is a marker project. How about this? I'm going to show you how to letter in Old English, this message right here, and then I'll teach you how to get it on fabric where you can stitch it or you can have someone else stitch it for you. That's a great variety. We're going to work on wood, and we're going to do a garage sale sign. We're going to do a lot of fun things. Please be with us again, get some pens, join us, and you'll enjoy calligraphy very, very much.